This is the Ora Good Cat, now officially the most affordable all-electric vehicle here in Malaysia. It's cute, it's quirky, it catches a lot of attention, that we know for a fact. But should you buy one? Now, in this video, we're going to find out a lot of things that I like about the car, a lot of things that I don't like about the car. Plus, its full claimed driving range of around 500 kilometers. Can it actually do that on local Malaysian roads? Let's find out all that and more in this video. This car now starts at just under 140,000 ringgit for the base 400 Pro, and that makes it the most affordable all-electric vehicle here in Malaysia. Moving up to this, the flagship 500 Ultra brings it up to 170,000 ringgit. The two numbers refer to the claimed ranges of the two variants, 400 kilometers for the base car and 500 kilometers for this flagship model. But having said that, these numbers are based on the far more optimistic NEDC test cycle, where most other brands that are selling EVs here in Malaysia, including Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, BMW and so on, use the far more realistic, more real-world WLTP test cycle instead. Now, in fact, this car in Europe with the smaller battery pack is only rated at 310 kilometers on the WLTP test cycle, compared to 400 as it is marketed as here. So that's yet another extra thing that you have to worry about when comparing EV specs. But yeah, let's move on. But most customers will be sold on this car based on looks alone, and I absolutely get it. If you're looking for a car that looks modern and fashionable to fit your lifestyle, this hits all the right notes. Just look at the logo. It's basically an exclamation mark which fits the car, because wherever you go in this car, you are making a statement. People will notice you. The round headlights with the chrome rings combine all the best bits from a Porsche 911, a Volkswagen Beetle, and Minis. And for this Ultra version, it even has a really nice welcoming startup sequence for both the front and the rear lights, which look really cool. Of course, this being a full electric vehicle, it doesn't have the need for a big open grille at the front, so this fully clean and closed look adds on to the uniqueness of it all. The details are quite nice as well. If you look down here, there's a really small digital fins going on, look really cool. At the top, you've got this AMG style power domes, which adds on a bit of aggressiveness to the whole front face. Moving on to the side, the big bulging fenders on the car really do look like old school Porsche 911s, and this small flap over here covers the charging ports for this car. I'll get to all that later on in this video. This fender, in fact, is actually made out of plastic, both to save weight and cost. You can hear it right here. See the different sound right there. But what I don't really like is the inconsistent panel gaps between this fender and the front bonnet. Now, I get that these are very complex shapes that are hard to get right, but a little bit of extra consistency will speak volumes to the car's overall build quality, I think. As for the wheels, these are the standard 18-inch wheels with a rather retro throwback design, which I do really like. But perhaps if the center hub is actually color-coded to the rest of the car, would have made it look even more interesting, I think. The Ora Good Cat is available in Malaysia with a wide range of color options, with a few of them having this really distinctive dual tone finish like this one right here. My favorite colors are this green over here, which looks really great under direct sunlight, plus the red and black combo. I think if you're buying a car like this, might as well go all out in your color selection. What I'm not a big fan of, however, is this right here. Now, this car does have a keyless entry system, but there's only a sensor on the driver's door. So if you're on the left side, yeah, too bad, you have to take out your key to unlock it from here. Now, that's cost-cutting gone a little bit too far, I think. But back here, I really do like this car because it literally looks like nothing else on the road today. There is no traditional taillight to speak of, so what you end up with is a nice, neat and clean, distinctive rear end. I've driven this car for a few days now. Every time I park it in public and get out, I see a lot of people staring at this rear end right here. If you want attention, this is the car to get for sure. The actual taillights are embedded in the rear screen over here, which looks really cool. And like in most Audi SUVs, as you lift up the boot, you no longer can see the rear taillights, so this extra lights down here turn on instead. The signal lights are down there as well. What I don't like is this centrally mounted rear fog lamp. This F1 or Super GT style rear fog lamp looks a little bit too sporty, doesn't fit the rest of the cute and cuddly look of this car, I think. Another thing I don't like is the lack of a rear wiper on this car. Perhaps it's hard to fit a wiper motor around this taillight section over here. But having said that, having driven this car through our rainy season lately, it's nowhere near as bad as those in the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6. And lastly, the badges right here. This huge Ora lettering I find quite nice, but then you've also got the Good Cat on the left and GWM badge on the right. It's all a little bit confusing and unnecessary, I think. Inside, the Ora Good Cat is simply outstanding. It looks great, it feels even better. If I were to get into this car completely blind, not knowing what this is priced at, I would have guessed that this is an interior of a 300, even 400,000 ringgit car. There is not a hint of exaggeration there, believe me. The entire top half is covered in this really plush artificial suede or nubuck material, which is very similar to what you get in highest end Mercedes-Benz EQ vehicles. Plus the fact that it's color coded to the exterior, I think this interior is superb. You get the same material on the seats, while the top half gets this quilted leather look, which matches the door cards as well. This car just looks and feels expensive. Now, of course, as you move down, the plastics get a little bit harder, a little bit more hollow as well, but this is still a far more expensive interior than what this car actually is. Plus, with most EVs trying to utilize more and more recycled plastics in their interiors, this feels as good as that. The only thing that breaks the illusion of this being a full premium car is the fact that you can see the body color in the door frames from the inside. Other than that, this feels like a bona fide premium car. Trust me on this. Now, with the good, now comes the bad part about this interior, the screen over here. This is so underdeveloped that it just feels like a beta software rather than a final release. The interface is just so simple, no additional features whatsoever. But worse yet is the English use in this software. It's very clear that they've used some sort of an automatic Chinese to English translation on this car, because you now end up with funny terms such as wisdom dodge, doubling assistance, whatever those mean. But the worst yet is when you try to move this rotary gear selector without pressing the brake pedal. Just look at that, it says brake to shift in. And it's not just a matter of language either. Now, this driver's seat does have a memory setting, but for some reason they've managed to hide the function within sub-menus in the screen right there, and then they put it under body instead of seat settings. And then you have a driver seat massage function where you can turn it on or, you know, close it. Plus, you can even adjust the seats through the menu over here, but instead of a simple thing of showing an image of the seat plus arrows where you want them to move, they've arranged it with a set of buttons: seat forward, backrest forward, and so on. It's just mind-boggling how this is a final release of this software. And I'm not even done yet. Now, this car does have Apple CarPlay, which is very good, although this is a wired connection, so your wireless charger down here is pretty much redundant. The screen itself looks really good, works very well, it looks great, very vibrant, very sharp, and it's fast to respond as well. But now with the main screen on, if I were to want to change the aircon settings for this car, just look at the amount of steps I need to do before I can do that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, usually I complain when I have to do 2 steps to change my aircon settings. 4 is just ridiculous, and then even the buttons themselves are just so small that, yeah, if you're driving and you have to press such small buttons, it's ridiculous. But thankfully, as with most EVs, this can potentially be fixed with a software update down the line. So hopefully they sort this out sooner rather than later. But let's move on to things that I do like about this car. The instrument panel for the driver is very nice, very clear, and you actually have 2 different themes to choose from. Both look really good, very modern and very distinctive as well. But I do have to mention we are getting the smaller, lower spec screen for the Malaysian market instead of the much bigger widescreen in the European market funky cat. Same story with the steering as well. We are getting the traditional buttons on the side instead of full touch controls in the funky cat, but to me this is the way to go. It's probably less confusing to use compared to full touch controls. Other than that, in terms of practicality, this car is just great. You get two big cup holders down here, a lot of cubby spaces to put your handbags, your handphone, your keys and whatnot, and you do get an extra USB port to power your dash cam at the top here. That is very nice addition indeed. One last thing, as much as I hate the screen, the 360-degree camera is fantastic. It's sharp, it's wide, it's one of the best systems I've seen so far. Back here, the Ora Good Cat is pretty good as well. Legroom, as you can see, is very generous. I am only 167 centimeters tall, but the legroom available here will fit even the tallest rear passengers. Headroom is not great, but not too bad either, and the seats themselves are very nicely appointed. It's a nice angle, and the seat support is pretty good even for longer journeys. But as with most EVs, the seat base is sort of placed a little bit too low to the floor, so if I were to sit up straight, my knees up in the air, I'm not getting much thigh support down here. But I can just, move my feet forward and lounge back. This is a fairly comfortable seating position even in the back. Plus, you get a very nice view out with the standard panoramic sunroof together with the big windows and plush seats. This really does feel like a very expensive car to sit in even in the back here. What's not so good is the lack of any aircon vents for rear passengers. When you are paying 170,000 ringgit for a car, you would expect this to be standard, but yeah, it's not here. And then there's this car does have isofix anchors for the rear seats, but it's hidden within this rear cushion, which makes it very, very difficult to install child seats. This is the hardest I've seen so far. As for the boot, the Good Cat has a really small cargo space at just around 220 liters. That's less than what the Prodwa Myvi and Azia has, so that's a little bit disappointing. But consider the fact that you're unlikely to go on a road trip with this car at all, it's not such a big issue, I think. Plus, you can just fold the rear seats down for extra space if you do need them. Alright, so what is the brand new Ora Good Cat like to drive now? Let's talk about the numbers first as usual. Doesn't matter which variant you choose, you get the exact same powertrain setup. You get a single electric motor at the front, powering the front two wheels, and this is rated at 143 PS and 210 Newton meters of torque. Now, those numbers may not sound like much if you are talking about a normal ICE car. That's about slightly more than what you'd get with a normal 2-liter naturally aspirated engine. But on an electric car, because the power delivery is just so instantaneous, so relentless. So officially this car gets from 0 to 100 in 7.9 seconds, but I've timed it to around 7.5, 7.6 seconds, so it's actually quicker than what it claims to be. Now, this car on the road definitely feels much faster than any car of this size with a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine. This in fact feels even quicker than a Honda HR-V with a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine, which when I was driving I thought was very quick. This is way faster than that even. So the performance numbers may not sound very exciting, only 140 PS, 200 Newton meters, 0 to 100 in just under 8 seconds, but believe me, this is a pretty quick car on the road. So behind the wheel, at no point do I think that this car is in any way underpowered. It has more than enough power for everyday use. Even for quick overtakes, this is excellent. Just indicate, full throttle, and off you go. There you go. I'm already reaching 100 kilometers per hour. This is quick. So in short, in terms of performance, this car is spot on. The only difference between the two variants are the battery sizes. Now, the 400 Pro will get you a 47 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is an LFP battery, which I'll get to in a bit. Whereas if you get the flagship 500 Ultra version like this, you get a 63 kilowatt hour ternary battery. Based on my own driving, I've driven this car for over a couple of days, over a few hundred kilometers. I've averaged around 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That I think is excellent. Now, if you were to compare that against the full battery capacity of 63 kilowatt hours, that works out to around 420 kilometers of overall range, which is not 500 kilometers as claimed, but 420 for a car like this at this price, I think is excellent. It's around the same as a Hyundai Ioniq 5, a BMW iX, that cost way more expensive than this car. So in that sense, I think this is an absolute bargain. Now, this is where in fact I think the cheaper, smaller battery version may make even more sense, because yes, despite the smaller battery pack, that is an LFP battery, which is a far more advanced system. With an LFP battery, you can just charge the car up to 100% every single day, whereas with a normal battery like this car, you are recommended to charge it up to a maximum of 80%, maybe 85% on a daily basis. If you are to charge a normal battery up to 100% every single day, you will face rather severe battery degradation in the long run. So think about it, for everyday use, you charge this car up to 80%, that gets you around 330, 340 kilometers. Whereas with a smaller battery, you can charge it up to 100% every single day, that gets you around 320 kilometers. So on a daily basis, I just get the cheaper car with a better battery. Of course, if you are planning to drive this car longer distances, you charge it up to 100%, you will get further range with this one over the 400 Pro. But yeah, on a day-to-day, daily basis, the smaller, cheaper battery pack makes more sense, I think. Do you agree with this? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, as for charging, this car does come with a home portable charger, but that comes with a Thai market plug together with a really cheap looking power adapter. I won't touch that, I won't charge that using that at all. I think that's a bit scary. Now, if you were to use a dedicated wall box, this has an onboard AC charger of just 6.6 kilowatts. That may sound a little bit underwhelming, so it's going to take you a long time to charge overnight, but that's the point. If you're going to be charging it overnight anyway, I don't think it really matters whether it's 7 or 11 kilowatts. You'll be leaving it over 8-9 hours anyway, so in the morning it's going to be full. I think that's not an issue at all. As for DC, this can take in up to 60 kilowatts, so you can go from 10 to 80% in about 45 minutes or so. So yeah, again, that is more than good enough. It's not great, but yeah, good enough. Now let's move on to how this car actually drives. This in fact is one of the more comfortable EVs I've tested so far, at least the ones without those super expensive air suspension, adjustable suspension and all that. When it comes to a normal EV with passive suspension like this is definitely one of the better ones. Now, because EVs are generally a lot heavier than a traditional car, the dampers are usually set to much stiffer settings. What you end up with is a very busy ride. With this, you sort of feel that it is inherently quite firm, but overall it's fairly comfortable. I don't think this is, far less comfortable than a Hyundai Kona or a Honda HR-V, for instance. Now, of course, this car feels far smoother, far more comfortable beyond, say, 30-40 kilometers per hour, where it feels quite comfortable. But under that, it feels a little bit jittery, a little bit bouncy, a bit firm. But yeah, I don't think it's that big of a complaint overall. I think this car rides just fine. And the same goes with the handling as well. This isn't a sports car, nor does it want to be one. So handling wise, it's okay. You do get a fair bit of body roll because again, it's a heavy car. But because the suspension is also quite firm, you do get a fair bit of decent body control to go with it. Now, it's not the kind of car you want to go touge, upgunting and whatnot, but as an everyday car, yeah, it's a pretty fun car to drive, especially with that immediate power delivery this car offers. The steering wheel is actually fairly well weighted. Now, you do get 3 different settings to choose from. I think the middle setting is just about perfect for a car like this. It's not too light, it's not too heavy, it loads up quite well through the corners. Yep, just about nice, and a bit of a surprise for a car coming from China. They usually get the settings for the steering wheel all wrong. This is really good. Now, a quick one on refinement, because I'm sure by now you've heard everything there is to hear about this car. the road noise, the wind noise is pretty loud. Now this is a common thing among EVs because there is no engine noise, no engine drone to sort of drown out all the small little noises coming in. With this car, it's pretty much bare naked. You can hear everything that comes in through the car. So in that sense, it's a bit of a disappointment because knowing that this is an EV, I think they could have put a little bit more attention in terms of sound deadening, in terms of wind noise and all that. Right now, yeah, it's quite loud, it's quite annoying. One last thing is the active driver assist of this car, where for the most part it's actually pretty good. Now this car does have the full works: AEB, autonomous emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, active lane keep assist and all that, and when everything is turned on it works perfectly well. In fact, the level 2 semi-autonomous driving feature on this car works over a wider range of roads, a wider range of speeds than a typical car in this price range normally would. Over longer journeys, the active centering system on this car will keep the car right in the middle of the lane through much tighter curves compared to most other cars. It's just that it's a system that is so hard to turn on or off because you have to go through the whole silly system on the screen. Now to turn that on, I've got to go through like 5 or 6 steps through the tiny screen, which is downright dangerous, I think, if I were to do it while I was driving. And then once you reach a destination, you're turning off the highway. To turn it off, you have to go through the whole thing again. Most of the time, I just don't bother at all. It's a great system, but it's just so hard to engage, so hard to turn off, that yeah, I won't use it at all really. That pretty much sums up the whole car. It's a great piece of kit that's very, very good in most aspects, but yeah, it's just too bad about the software. So that's my full review of the Ora Good Cat. In short, I think this is a fantastic starter EV for most Malaysians. It looks great on the outside, it looks even better on the inside. Nothing else will come even close to match this in terms of looks and feel in this price range. And then there's the range. It's not quite 500 kilometers as claimed, but 420 real world is still very impressive and perfectly usable for most Malaysians, at least here in the Klang Valley. The way it drives is less outstanding. It's just powerful enough, it's just comfortable enough, but to me that's perfectly usable, more than good enough for a car like this. One thing that lets the car down is the underdeveloped software that this car has. Now, hopefully this will get improved sometime soon, because right now, as is, it is infuriating. Well, anyway, what do you think of the Ora Good Cat and my review of it? Anything you like or don't like about the car, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and stay safe, everyone.